Carlos Nelson with Cascade Sports, and tonight we're finishing up on our series of bridging the gap between sports and education. And we have one of our local talents here, head coach of Turner Boys basketball. Who do we have here?
You have Trinity Hall Senior.
All right. Hey, Trinity, what I want you to do is tell our audience a little bit about yourself. Tell your story from kindergarten on up, per se. I will help you stay on track on that as it relates to what kind of household you came out of, what schools you went to, what teams you played for coming up, who were some of the mentors to you on the field and off the field, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Well, I was born and raised right here in Kansas City, Kansas, on the Wyandotte side. I grew up in a two-parent household, struggles with mother and father. Father ended up going to prison for a few years while I was growing up, so I was without him for a few years. But I had a really strong base with my mother. She did a really good job raising me, and then I have 4 brothers and sisters. All of us, we all lived in the same house. We never got our own room, so I was sharing a room with all my brothers and sisters. So that was a rough part. We lived in a very rough area in the KCK area, Wyandotte. Went to Mark Twain Elementary. It was a good school, had some really good support there. A lot of teachers I had. After that, I went to Central Middle School. It was a different culture of people that I was around growing up, because I went from going to predominantly all Black elementary school where all the kids that looked like me, to going to a school that was full of Hispanics. So I was like learning a new culture going there and how to deal with those people that were different from me going there when I was in middle school. And then after that, I went to Wyandotte. I was like coming back home. Everybody looked like me again. Same kind of kids I grew up with. We all kind of like linked back up together.
Talk about your athletics as you were going through there.
I didn't start playing basketball.
All right.
I didn't really start playing until like the 5th grade. I was a very imaginative kid. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had older brothers who played. They were really, really good. And they kind of pushed me to be great. I was always constantly being told I wasn't going to be good from them, just because older brother stuff, it wasn't because it wasn't because they didn't believe in me. It was just more so trying to push little brother to be better, because I was taller than them when I was very young. So it was just a process of getting my mind right when I was going to get into. So I started playing in 5th grade. Middle school, I played all there. They couldn't play in 6th grade.
Who were you playing under? And remember about those mentors, what you learned from different coaches on your way up the ladder.
In my 5th grade, I played for a guy who knew my dad real well. His name was Will Graves. We called him Big Will. He was real cool with my dad. He coached me all through 5th grade and 6th grade, and then 7th grade, I played under a guy named Bernard Beatty, who went to Washington High School. He was a real good coach for me. He wanted to allow me to develop my game and to not just being a post player at 6'7". I was able to learn my guard skills and be able to start thinking like a guard and not like a big kid. And then from there, I went to high school and I played under David Johnson. He was my high school basketball coach.
At what school?
At Wyandotte.
Wyandotte.
And then during the summertime, I played with Terry Moore for Diaper Dan basketball. He was a big influence in my life as far as showing me how not to fall into the temptations of living in Wyandotte, because he had already went through it. He was a big help for me. He also was able to introduce me to other coaches far as AAU, because Diaper Dan was my local team, but when it was time to start traveling like to big cities like Las Vegas, Florida, Texas, he actually able to introduce me to other coaches, so I was able to get that exposure, so I eventually able to get my Division I scholarship. Actually, on all my Division I looks I was able to get was because he introduced me to other coaches that were able to get me out on the market and be seen. So yeah, he was a real big part.
Coach told me a little while ago today, he was saying the athletes had called him after the interviews and was thanking him. And he said, but the athletes were saying, but Mr. Nelson didn't say too much about you, Coach. And I said, Mr. Nelson didn't have to say too much about Coach. That's how you got on the show, because Coach is not into promoting himself.
He's not. He's a very humble guy. He even said that, like, when he always told me, like, when I was playing before I got hurt, like when I played, he's like, don't ever like give all the credit of what I did as a basketball player to him. Like he said, he was put on earth to put people in positions to do better, and he definitely stood by his word. Whether it was getting me to a team in Nebraska to go so I can go to Las Vegas, or get me to another team so I could get to Florida or Texas or any of those type of teams, he just made sure had every opportunity to be great, and he definitely always stood by his word.
So at Wyandotte, tell our audience a little bit about your play from freshman to senior. Go through your freshman year, and then you know how I am with giving the props to these coaches. What did you learn each season as you progressed?
So my freshman year, I actually was playing point guard. Like I was I wasn't short, but I was at the size where you like, okay, he has to play the point, you know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't really, so I was like 6 foot. I was suiting up varsity. I wasn't really good yet. About suiting up varsity, playing JV, getting on my minutes. And from my freshman year, my freshman year, I played freshman JV varsity. I was just jumping around, like playing, just getting as many games as I could in as possible. And then from my freshman year to my sophomore year, I grew 7 inches. So I went from 6 foot to 6'7" over the summer. And that's when like I started to blow up. I came back, I was starter on varsity, I was leading scorer, led the team in blocks, rebounds. I did just about everything.
Who was you starting at the guard, or was you starting at the 3 or 4?
Coach didn't give me a position. He said, we're not going to give you a position that you could do everything. I could handle it, I could shoot it, I could rebound, I would just do about everything. So when I got the ball off the rim, it was everybody go. I could either push it or I could kick to somebody and run the floor. It was that second year for me at Wanda was a fun year for my coach. I feel like, because
who was coaching you?
David Johnson and Tracy Dyer were my 2 coaches there. But David Johnson was a varsity coach. He was an alumni from Wyandotte. He also played at Oklahoma, and he actually went to the NBA and played for a little bit as well. But that was my coach. He was good friends with my dad and Coach Moore as well. Both did. He looked out for me my freshman and my sophomore year.
Go on to your junior.
So my junior year, he actually ended up getting another coaching job. Actually, no, he stepped down. He actually had some issues at home that he had to step down. So that next year, they promoted the JV coach, who was my coach my freshman year, up to varsity, and he already knew what I could do. And he just kind of like gave me the keys. It was pretty much, my brother had left. He was playing with me, so I was really blessed my sophomore year, because I was able to play with my older brother and then 2 of my cousins. And
talk about that. Talk about playing, how unique that is to a degree, to be able to play with one of your brothers, especially your older brother.
It was a dream come true, man, because like when I was younger, like I said, like he didn't really have too much faith in my basketball skills because he didn't know how I was going to develop. But once I got to a skill set where he was like, okay, little brother's good, like I can trust him now on the court. That next year, like my sophomore year, he was like, we're going through you. Like it was like, I always confident, I always knew he had my back. Like, because I was young, I was playing against seniors and juniors, and he never let a dirty play go by that I wasn't ready for, whether it was a cheap elbow from one of the upperclassmen or something like that. And he always had my back. So it was a dream come true. Because like the whole time I was playing and progressing as a player, I was like, I got to get up there with my brother. I got to get up there before he leaves. And for me to get the opportunity, it was a dream come true.
All right. That dream came true for you. Now I want you to transpose that dream. What was that dream like for Dad and Mom to see y'all on the court?
It was good for them because they finally didn't have to go to 3 different games in a week. They were like, we know they play together on Friday, so we know that we're not going to have to go. One day we might have to go to Schlegel, one day we might have to go to Washington. We know that every day, like, we know that they're going to be on the same court. So they just love the fact that we were actually finally bonding, because when we were younger at home, you would think that we were like the worst of men. We were always playing and bumping heads and all that stuff like that. So for us to be able to get an opportunity to play together and actually show the love of basketball that we had together and was able to share it together, it was a dream come true for my parents.
You know what that story on the next level? That's the Balls story. Alonzo and them.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Yeah. Run on down your last year there.
So my senior year was like my coming out party. I felt like I was starting to assert myself as one of the better players in the state of Kansas. I averaged 27 points a game, 7 rebounds and like 3 assists, and also like 3 blocks a game. Like that was me kind of showing I was the alpha, showing like I was one of the alphas in Kansas. You know, I was made all state. You know what I'm saying? I was Kansas All-Star. I was up there with the Relifers and the Reese Holidays and the Ninos and all those guys that played for Mocan and Pumping Runs. I was right up there being mentioned with those guys. That's one of the better players in the state of Kansas. Led Wanda to a playoff victory. We ended up losing the second round, but I held my own. I was able to get a Division I scholarship to UMKC. I had a lot of looks coming out. Well, not a lot. I had a few. I felt like I should have had more.
Who was coaching over at UMKC when you was there?
So my first 3 years, it was Matt Brown, and then my last year there it was Kareem Richardson, which was my best year as
all right. Well, I must have seen you then, because when Kareem took the helm, Kareem told UMKC that he wanted more black coverage, and they had the black AD. Carla was over there, and Kareem was one of the first members to sign up of the upper level to the City of Fountain Coaches Association, and then Marcus Harvey and all the other coaches, Rodney, because Kareem was at the pinnacle at Division I. And talk about that when you got up under him. That's what I want to know. How things changed.
When Coach Rich got there, like I tell everybody to this day, I love Coach Brown for recruiting me and giving me my scholarship. But when Coach Rich got there, that's when I got to show who I was. Like I felt like I was in a box for so many years. When Coach Rich got there, he took me out of that box and he allowed me to be who I am, like the grit, the grinder, everything I was at Wyandotte, everything who made me a kid from Wyandotte, he let me be that kid. You know, he came with his style of play, the up-tempo, fast-paced, pressing type style, everything I loved about basketball. He was able to let me play in that system. And when he got there, he's like, I want you to stay. I don't want you to leave. And he let me be me. And I had my best career as a college basketball player playing under Coach Rich.
And how you expressed that, you had the best peace of mind also, that you were happy.
I didn't feel the pressures of playing basketball and putting everything on my back and actually having to be the hero all the time. It was like, Trinity, just go be the best version of you and the rest will follow. And when he told me that, it was like a big weight just lifted off my shoulders, because my whole high school career had to be Superman, and like my whole first 3 years there, I felt like I had to try to figure out a way to get us to the pinnacle and win conference and things like that. When Coach Rich got there, he like, just be you, and then the rest will come. And Coach Rich is one of those coaches that if anybody asks me who are one of the best coaches, it's going to be Coach Moore, and then Case Ridge is right after him. So like, it's like I have so much respect and love for that dude, man. Like,
I'm glad. Hey, Coach came into town, and I thought far as I was concerned, he changed the culture over there at UMKC. But you know what? They back to that same old crap. But that's a horse of another color. Now, what I wanted to know is, you had these offers. Did you ever give the thought of going to a HBCU?
I actually did. Southern University was a school that I really wanted to go to, because that's where my father went to school. And like, I didn't have, the coaches that were there didn't have the resources to get me seen the way I wanted to be seen by that school, because that's the only HBCU I wanted to go to, because that's where my father went. And I was, following his footsteps. I was actually becoming good. I was being known around Kansas City. I was like, it's cool. Like, first school I get, I'm going to go to Southern, play the same school my dad went to.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the opportunity to get exposed to them as in their school.
But as we talked off camera, and I told you what I mentioned Cascade, and I told you HBCUs and what have you, because the more star athletes that we can get going to HBCUs, like yourself when you were coming out, the more revenue now is going to come to those schools, because the press and everybody else is going to follow you. And
Right.
we talked about LeBron and how he has changed the culture and so forth. And with you being a coach now, hopefully you're conscious of that. Let's move on to, did you know that you wanted to coach in your senior year? Talk about your senior year, your frame of mind. You're getting ready to come out of school, and what's my next move for the future?
So my next move was actually to be a pro, and I was actually got pretty close. I played overseas in Chile, Italy, and Brazil. Then I got invited back to play in that national NBA G League showcase, where I did really well. Ended up got invited to like 3 camps, and then like right when I was getting ready to go to camp, I tore my Achilles, and that was a backbreaker for me. I actually was able to come back and actually go to those camps, but snagging an injury, trying to get back from that injury kind of just held me back. So what was next? You know what I'm saying? Like, I always was a good student of the game. Coach Richard would always tell me, hey, your next, like, he said, you're going to be a better coach than you ever were as a player. And I never really listened to it because I was younger and hard-headed, and I was like, whatever, man, you're just trying to shoot my dream down. But as I started to develop and grow up as a man, like, I started, like, coaching. When I got my first coaching job, like, I started to see, like, what they were saying, like, my ability to teach the game just started to, like, flow out more than anything I ever did as a player. And right after coaching my first year at Wyandotte, as a freshman coach, I saw that I had a niche for it, and then being able to be promoted from freshman to JV to the JV coach that next year really was a big deal for me. And I was also the head assistant in my freshman year not my freshman year, but my first year at Wyandotte. As a freshman coach, I was the head assistant, so I was responsible for like scouting, all those things like that. And I helped that varsity team my first year at Wyandotte. They went 16-4 that year. And the head coach to this day, he praised me and said, hey, if it wasn't for my scouting and my game planning, like, I would have, they wouldn't have done as well.
Who was the coach then?
His name is Jeff Carlin.
How do you feel about the history of Wyandotte and their heyday versus where they're at now?
So back in the day, they had coaches, man, who like let those kids like go be who you are, go be great, and let those kids develop. And that's why they were able to win so many state championships as they did. You know, had Victor Williams, Nate Johnson, Boo Richardson, all those type of players that was coming up when I was coming up. They were like gods to me. Like,
you know, Boo is over at Northeast. I talked to him earlier today.
Yeah, Boo was actually one of the first people to actually call me and tell me congratulations when I got my first head coaching job. Boo was like a big brother, big mentor. He helped me get into the college, not the college, but the AAU circuit as far as like coaching AAU. Like, Boo was a big influence in me getting into like the summer basketball, so I can be coaching all year round, so I can keep developing my skills as a coach. But yeah, just to get back to your question, Wyandotte back then, they allowed the players to be them and do their things and had good coaching. And like a lot of the coaches that were coaching at Wyandotte knew who the kids were that were going to that school and was able to coach them the way that they needed to be coached in order for them to be successful. And I feel like now, as the years have gone and progressed, like they've gone away from that, and they're bringing in people who don't know anything about these kids or where they come from, what they're going through on their daily basis, and they're coming in trying to coach them and tell them what to do. And those kids are like, dude, you don't know who I am, what I go through on a daily basis. Like, I'm not listening to you. So there's a lot of pulling back and forth trying to get these kids to play well. And these kids they just like, man.
A lot of that is generational. And, you know, I come out the Bobby Knight era where shirt, tie on the trips and all of that. But the younger players, they're not with all of that. They're going to play for you, but you're not going to be they the Alvin, I meant to say, the boy out of Virginia that had started with the cross, Iverson.
Yeah.
They more like, hey, I come from the hood. You don't know nothing about the hood.
Right.
You don't know nothing about the welfare that my mama is, you know, and the street influences this on me. And if you're not coming to me right, you're not going to get the production. You're
Right,
not going to get
right.
the attention. And
Absolutely.
you're going to lose the ability to change me as a young man because I'm not listening how you talking to me.
Right.
Or am I not distilling that right?
Right.
You know, so how do you feel about what you're doing now?
I'm actually pretty excited. This is my first head coaching job. Like I said, I did the freshman and the JV levels, and the 2 years I was coaching, I was only lost 4 games. So I have a really good record so far in the high school level as a freshman and JV coach. I'm excited about the task at hand here at Turner. We didn't win a game last year because I feel like we just didn't have the numbers. We had 7 guys. They had 7 guys that were playing all year, and they were losing them back and forth due to the rules with COVID and things of that nature. But this year, I feel like we're gonna have the numbers we need. Just looking at the football team.
And Coach, in general, you know, it seems like our urban core schools, I'm talking about across the nation, except for some real cities like Chicago and New York and big cities, the enrollment. See, when Wyandotte and we had the powerhouses, you didn't have all these suburban schools, and all your community was at them schools, and you had to make a team. I'm talking about now, if you're tall and want to be on the team, coach bring you right in because you don't have as many athletes. You know, and that stifles your ability to win championships.
Yeah, it definitely does, man. We got a lot of like hand picking going around and stuff like that. So it's just the process of getting what you got and being able to coach those kids up. You know, this year we were able to get a lot of enrollment, a lot of kids coming here in the school. So we got we should have a good chunk number of kids, coming out to trial for the team this year. So the numbers are really up as high as most they've been in a long time here at Turner. So that definitely is true what you're saying about the enrollment, keeping kids here locally and stuff like that. So yeah.
Tell me this. So what you're on, bridging the gap between sports and education, as we wind up, what would be some of your closing words to young players? First of all, I'll be specific. Speak from not a coach's perspective. Speak when you was a senior in high school. What would you tell a young freshman they need to do in their mindset to be prepared to graduate and get a scholarship?
I would tell a freshman to hold on to what you like, what you believe in, like what's your dream. I would tell them to hold on to that, but also know that you don't know everything. You can't predict the future, so you need to have a backup plan that you know that's going to be set in stone. If something that whatever you're dreaming about doesn't work, have something that's going to back up whatever you're dreaming about doing. Have something to back that up. So whether it's you want to dream to go to NBA, NFL, MLB, make sure you have something to back that up. Like I didn't figure that out until my senior year at college. I had my mind so set up on what I was going to do, where I was going to be, and I didn't have a backup plan. And it took me a year to get that backup plan in order and in place so I can be where I'm at in the position I am today. But I would tell a freshman, just have a backup plan, something that you can fall back on in case your dream doesn't.
The other thing is Cascade Sports is home of the student athlete. That backup plan and that A1 plan, how does education fit in that? Because a lot of athletes, I'm a former athlete, I thought I'd just be good and the coach is going to take me and I'm going to get a scholarship.
Yeah, it don't work like that, man. You got to have the grade. You got to do the stuff that's not on the court. That's what's gonna get you to school. Like I was fortunate enough to have a mother who was, hey, dude, like you're not gonna do anything unless you're doing what you're supposed to do in the classroom. Like when my 6th grade year in middle school, I got an F on one of my classes, and she took me out of sports the entire year. Like I wasn't able to do anything for the rest of the year in my 6th grade year, and that struck a chord in me because like one, I wasn't able to do anything that year. And two, like people were constantly asking, why aren't you doing this or why aren't you there? And I tell them, I'm ineligible. I can't play because I got an F. That was just a terrible feeling for me. So like, I just try to tell those kids like, hey man, like you need to make sure you're doing schoolwork, make sure you're being a good kid, being a good student, and you just make sure you're doing everything you're supposed to, because everything else, if you really want to do this when it comes to whatever you're doing, whatever sport you're playing, the rest will follow. But you're a student athlete, not athlete student. That's what I always tell them. So you got to make sure you're being that student first in order to do what you want to do when it comes to athletics.
How important in you closing, letting them know if they don't put all of that together, they will not be able to get into school. And there's schools that will take you on some of your ability, but they'll take you much quicker if they compare your academics and get you some academic money as well as some athletic money.
Yeah, that's a big point, a big part of like getting into like those prestige schools that you want to get to. If you have the grades and stuff to back up everything that you do on the court, like they're more likely to give you more money on what you want to do. Like when I was going to UNK, when I was not applying, but when I was getting ready to sign my scholarship to UNKC, when they were able to go back and look at my GPA and everything I do, my whole body of work as I was as a student, they were ready to throw money at me like left and right. Like we want this kid in because he can be a good student. Oh, he can play basketball too. So it's very important that you get those, that you're doing everything you can in those English and those maths and all those core classes that you got as a high school student, because at the end of the day, it's really, it sounds cliche, but it's like if you're not doing well in those classes, like it don't mess your money up when it's time for you to go to school. Like it don't mess it up. So you got to make sure you're really trying your hard in those English, those math, and those sciences, and knocking them out of the water, because when it's time for you to get your money, when it's time for school, there's going to be a lot. It's going to make the decision for those universities whether or not they're going to give you X amount or this amount, you know what I'm saying? Like just off a simple, whether you got an A or a B in the class, so.
And now that you're explaining that to them, that's just to get into college.
Yeah.
But once you get in and have that opportunity to springboard, you're talking economics. That's what Coach just was talking about, economics. This puts you in a different plateau. People with degrees earn more money than people without degrees. And Absolutely. If you can get that degree at no cost because you have been a student athlete, you one step ahead of a lot of other people on this planet.
And what I like to tell like my athletes, like that I coach now, is that they can take your basketball away from you, like whether it's an injury or something like that. They can always, like, that's something that you can't control, that they can take away from you. But one thing they cannot take away from you, if you go do everything you're supposed to do as a student, is that degree. I guess something that's going to be with you forever. So if you go and you work your butt off and do everything you're supposed to do as a student athlete, that degree is going to be something you're going to be able to hold on to for the rest of your life, and say that it'll be that accomplishment that you'll always have. And it's going to put you over so many people when it comes to like getting a job or a certain career that you want, just because you have that degree that's set in stone. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Hey, Coach, it was a pleasure having you on the show, and we look forward to bringing you back during basketball season to talk about your program, bring a couple of your players on. And Absolutely. As we always say in closing, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Also, we close out Cascade Sports. We go hard in the paint, and I mean we go hard.
This program is brought to you by the City of Fountains Coaches Association.